Bannerlord can be a brutally hard game. Often you're outnumbered and massive armies march against you. Well, in this new series, we're going to work together, friends. What I want you to do is send me your difficult situations that you're either currently encountering in Bannerlord in your campaign, or something that you've dealt with in the past where you're just unable to solve it. I will do my very best to handle these difficult situations. I will share the results on YouTube, provided they have some kind of educational value for people. We will take on these difficult challenges, do some battlefield analysis, and hopefully help you turn around a very, very difficult battle. So join me on this adventure. Please send me your difficult situations. Have a little patience. I don't know how many there are going to be, but I'm willing to take these challenges on for you fellas as we handle your disasters of war. Alright friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related, and welcome back to another episode of our Disasters of War series. This series is a collaborative effort between you viewers, subscribers, Patreon supporters, and myself and the experience we have acquired on the channel here. You send in your difficult battles and campaigns, and we will do our very best to solve them here. Now I'm going to put this fella's email up on the screen briefly. This is another one of our Reddit messengers. This guy contacted me through the Reddit subreddit for Bannerlord, and he says in an email, I'm a fan of your channel and the Disasters of War series, but I haven't had a good battle to send in until today. This is a battle versus Vlandian dogs, and we're outnumbered and can't escape. I have a good-sized army and use my horse archers like you show, but they just roll us with cavalry every time. He says his name is Coriel, and he lives near Paris. Also, he says to return the save game if we can fix it. And so that's exactly what we're going to try to do here. Now, let's look at this very briefly here before we do a little auto-resolve of this. I want to set a baseline for this series here and essentially see how bad it looks, right? What kind of troops does he have? We will use the Bannerlord difficulty with one exception that I will describe in the next portion, in the secondary portion of this episode, where we try to solve his situation. He was on a little bit different difficulty, and let's go ahead and just jump right into the battle. And obviously what you could see is he's outnumbered 3-1 by Derthert, no less, right? So this is a very bad situation that our friend here, Coriel, we have this international audience, and I think that is great. It says we need horse archers for some reason. Okay, there you have some horse archers, and let's see what happens here with the AI. Now what we'll do is just zero or F1, F6, right, which turns all these units into Sergeant's Command. You can see him in the lower right-hand corner there, issuing orders. Cavalry is protecting the left flank. It looks orderly, right? The AI, it looks like they have an idea what they're doing, but we know from plenty of experience that the AI doesn't know how to fight in Bannerlord. That doesn't mean that they're going to be worthless in this battle, but they're just not going to fight optimally. Now, looking over his army here kind of quickly as the lines start to form up, he does have an Imperial heavy army, which is fine. The Imperials have excellent all-around troops. He's got a lot of elite Manablions, Legionnaire. I see a few high-ranking archers here. He said he was using horse archers. In fact, here's the AI using his horse archers. It's kind of putting them out front here to spray the enemy with fire. And look at this enemy here. It is just, I mean, that is an amazing amount of cavalry that they're sending in here. Now, this guy, we exchanged a few more emails, and I asked him about mods. He says he does not use the Strength and AI mod, so we deactivated that, but he does use the battle size mod. So we will see how that affects his battle. And the AI here is forming a defensive front on this ridge here as thousands of cavalry charge. Now, the horse archers just got flat exterminated. I think every single one of them died here. Heavy cavalry really take horse archers out to the woodshed here. We'll see what the rest of his army can do. I suspect at least these elite Manablions, right, all these guys bobbing up and down with their two-handed weapons, should have some positive effect on this battle here. But obviously, tactically, it's very difficult to confront what look like 600 heavy cavalry. Now the AI's crossbow were way too far back. They're now scurrying forward in a hurry to try to help the AI here But the cavalry did the majority of the damage, and this is precisely what he said in his email, right? He said, we get rolled by cavalry every time, and you can see what's happening here now. The enemy has 1,000 units on the battlefield. He's down to 100, and he's getting pretty much swallowed up here like a horror movie. His army looks like it's going to obtain about a 1-to-1 kill ratio, and obviously that is not going to suffice when you're outnumbered 3-to-1. So enough of this debacle here. We can see from just this basic glance here at the beginning of this episode that this is an extraordinary challenge and not one you're going to win without a lot of advanced tactics. I mean, it's not just a loss. He got absolutely mauled here by Derthert and company. Little quick reload here, and we will give this a battle. We will give this a shot with tactics. All right, we will get this battle reloaded here in a jiffy, do a little bit of editing so that's painless for you. Achievements are still disabled. Again, we'll figure that out in a second, but let's spend 5 minutes here and get familiar with Coriel and his army. We need to try to figure out how to overcome this very difficult challenge. Again, lots of heavy cavalry, right? When you look here, 460 and 320, so it is over 50% of Derthert's army is cavalry, right? In order to overcome that, we need to make sure that the equipment here, we need to make sure that the characters are basically aligned and positioned correctly on this battlefield for the highest chance of success. Now, his character here, you can ignore this. Sometimes this happens. This UI thing changes with some of the mods we're running. His character is a destroyer of worlds, right? He is throwing. I like this character spec. In fact, this is one we emulate, only we would recommend some two-handed in here and more athleticism. It's still a very deadly overall character spec. He's married to Savannah, it looks like. He's got a crossbow captain. He's got some nice looking captains, right? As far as companions go, these are some pretty good looking units. And I would surmise he's either an experienced player who understands how to set up a good army, or he's regularly coming by the channel and is sort of following what we recommend. I like this, right? There's some good looking companions there. I think the main thing, and probably the only thing we can dramatically adjust, is the banners. Now we're facing lots of cavalry, right? So let's see what kind of banners this guy has available. This is one of the most underrated, underestimated parts of Bannerlord Battle. Now he's got a decent banner already, the Iron Banner, but we want increased damage to cavalry. This one right here. Increased melee damage against mounted troops, right? 50% plus of the enemy is a cavalry division here. Huge amount of cavalry. We want this banner on his character. In fact, I'm coming up with a strategy here. We'll probably have 2 cavalry divisions, and I'm leaning towards a ring defense. In fact, to be perfectly honest, before we even started the second episode, I was starting to theorize a defense structure to overcome Derthert and company here. Now let's see if we can't trick out the rest of his divisions, and we'll talk about this for a minute or two here. He's got a very goofy looking gal here. Do we have a better helmet? She looks like an absolute dipshit. Yeah, we do, right? Let's go ahead and just get her a better helmet. It'll make her look better. And of course, it'll help her survive a little bit longer. We're not going to spend 20 minutes here tinkering with every piece of armor and stuff like that. But when you have options like that, right, you should definitely be taking advantage of it. I'm not going to go through every piece of equipment, like I said, but glaring ones we will fix here. I'm more concerned about the banners. So she's a crossbow. Excellent. She's a crossbow spec character. Let's go ahead and give her a banner. Let's see, 4th Division. I'll show you all this on the battlefield as well. We will break it down nice and slow so you guys can understand some of the ideas and philosophies I have for battle. Let's go ahead and give her this one. Decrease taken melee attack damage. I know that seems strange. You might want to have more damage with your crossbow. We're going to put them inside a ring of hell. It's an inner circle of hell tactic that we've developed on the channel here. So this is going to help them survive cavalry slashing down on their division. Who else do we have here? He's got a nice mix. So here's a nice skirmisher captain, and he's got increased melee damage against mounted troops. We're going to leave that, right? That's good. Here's a shock troop commander. Perfect, right? 225 polearm. In fact, we're going to get rid of his shield because I'm not sure the AI knows how to use an Avlion if you give it a shield. It might use it as a one-handed weapon. You see how it's either one-handed or two-handed? I definitely want this guy using it in a two-handed only mode. He'll be in charge of a shock troop division, so let's go ahead and give him... Is there another one? There is. Again, increased melee damage against mounted troops. I will show you that's going to be tremendously beneficial against a lot of cavalry, right? Who will have him command all the manavliatons and stuff like that. Here's an archer, decreased taken ranged attack damage. We're not going to get shot, right? We're going to position in a way so that these guys are at the back. So again, let's give them some protection from melee. I know that seems strange, but if our archers are getting cut down by cavalry, they're not going to be doing killing. I actually prefer that over this, right? Some people are like, well, increased range damage. If they survive, they're doing damage, right? And a lot of the archers that are going to be in this division, in this army, are going to have plenty of ammo. Decreased ranged attack damage. Let's give them increased ranged attack damage. He's got this gal, Merrywin, with the sledgehammer. I like that spec. And okay, good. I've been thinking we needed a first division captain, someone who's going to be in charge of our defensive infantry division. That guy's all set up as well. Now, the only thing we lack is a cavalry commander, but we'll figure something out. Actually, here we go. Is this guy one of his companions? Probably. He is. Excellent. So, it's not perfect. Actually, it's good. It's really good. He's got riding skill, pole arm, one-handed. This guy's going to be in charge of our defensive cavalry division. All right, let's jump in. Of course, we need to make sure we put Bannerlord difficulty, so it's the hardest difficulty with one exception. And I mentioned this before. We're going to turn player and companion death off. We don't need to kill one of this guy's best companions here. If we somehow can pull this battle off and we want to send him back to save game and we kill two of his favorite companions, he's not going to be thrilled. He's like, oh, thanks. You fixed my windshield of the car and you blew up the engine. No thanks, right? We're going to try to send him back a save game that he'll actually want to play. Now, the Vlandians are a long ways out here, so I'm going to have some time to talk about offensive strategy, defensive strategy in this battle, but we're going to try to use the landscape. Now, on the surface, this is a terrible battlefield to face the Vlandians. Open battlefield. There's no rocks to hide behind. There's no trees to slow down their cavalry. There's no water, but to the trained eye, you guys will start picking this up. And of course, especially guys who come by the channel on a regular basis, there are little subtle things in the landscape you can take advantage of. And this is actually more than subtle. Let me break it down here. You see this line where it's sort of, I guess, brighter color grass, and then it turns to green behind that? This is a ridge. It's very subtle. It's maybe a 10 or 15 foot ridge. Those bushes are on the other side. See how we can't see those bushes? We're going to use that because if the enemy crossbow is here and we are here, they cannot shoot us. So the spot that it's actually plopped us down on the map here is pretty good from that perspective. We're going to be able to force the enemy crossbow essentially to get close to shoot us. And when they get close, we'll have a very angry Manavlion just waiting for them, right? With his two-handed weapon, bobbing it up and down on their heads, right? Just smashing them to pieces. Now, our first division, we want to be a defensive division. In fact, the first two divisions here, we're going to play defense, and we're going to give them this guy with this decreased taken melee attack damage. That's because these guys' sole job early in this battle, survive, right? And then we want shields in there. We need to make sure that those guys, how come do we have that few legionnaire? This guy doesn't have very many legionnaire, which is unfortunate because we're really going to need him. Let's see what we can do here. Let's see if he has a crossbow division too. There's some argument actually to be made for pulling cavalry off and turning them into a square. Let's see what it looks like here. We'll have a horse archer division, and if you're wondering why I'm putting him in these kind of weird spots, this is just what I'm used to here. Here is our crossbow captain, so she'll be in charge of crossbow. We're going to have two archer divisions, and I'll explain why. When you have the Imperial forces, you have crossbow and you have archers, and they're very different. First, your crossbow have less ammo, but they have a shield, and these guys, a lot of them will have the mace. They're very good offensive weapons from a melee perspective. Your archers are not good at melee, but a lot of them have two bags of arrows, so we want to take advantage of the fact that they have more ammo, put them further back in the formations here where they're more protected, and they can shoot longer. Now, we need to give them their commander. Here we go. Decrease taken melee attack damage. This is his commander, his captain is going to lead the 8th division of about 80 troops, right? We're going to have half of our cavalry play defense. And where's Darim the Golden? Perfect. Decrease taken melee attack damage banner. That's going to give them survivability. Let me just get these companions set up first. We'll see if we have a tiny little 6th division here. Let's see if we can form one. Usually it's the tier 3 or no, it's the tier 3 or 4 Imperial infantrymen that has some javelins. Indeed, there's a few guys in there that have javelins. That division's not very important. What is important is we make sure that this 3rd division has a whole bunch of murderers in it, right? And that 1st division, of course, we want it to be about 45 and mostly elite legionnaire and stuff like that, right? When you zoom in here and you kind of look at it, legionnaire, 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 legionnaire. There's a few Manavlions, that's okay, right? As long as that 3rd division has a huge amount of shock troops. Now let's go ahead and let's zoom in on that 3rd division. That 3rd division is going to be the killing division. Perfect, right? Even though there's a couple dipshits with bad haircuts with the pitchfork, a lot of these guys are Manavlions. And there's a Volgier. We want that guy, 225 polearm. Here he is. Increased melee against mounted troops. These guys in this battle are going to do the killing, right? These guys are going to kill a lot of enemy troops. So the way to think about this is a sports game, a sporting event. Our 1st division here, that's your goalie or your defensive unit. They're all armored. Their job is to survive. Our 2nd division here of cavalry, similarly, their job is to survive. In fact, it doesn't really matter the strength of these. In other words, you don't need to put extra strong ones on the 2nd or 8th because they're both trying to survive, and the 8th will be trying to kill. Now, the 6th division is small. It doesn't really matter. We do have horse archers in the 7th division. They will be coming up on a flank. But what we're going to do here is run a circle defense. Now, you have the ability with the mouse. It's probably harder with the console to make the size of the circle whatever you want. You can make it really thin like that. I recommend making it so that there's something that looks a little bit like that. We'll put a few more guys in charge into that division. I like it to have that front couple rows. In other words, where the enemy cavalry is going to hit, to have some cavalry, and yet you want enough room in here for your troops to spread out. Now, you don't want it to be the maximum size because then there's too much room. The purpose of this circle is to protect us from cavalry charges. As the enemy cavalry come into this, they get slowed down. They run into armored horses, and they're not going to do a whole lot of killing. Meanwhile, we're going to put that infantry square towards the front. It can either be in a square or a shield wall. I prefer a square. And that's just going to be one more thing that slows the enemy down. Behind them is this 6th division, right? And these guys are skirmishers. There's a few little pathetic recruits in there. That's okay. Behind them is this killing division. This is going to be the key to this battle. This 3rd division has murderers up and down the line here. With that 30% bonus against mounted troops, those guys are going to absolutely shred. Behind them is crossbow. And these guys have a little bit of protection, but because before the enemy cavalry even get to them, they have to go through all this other meat and fucking angry weapons. Behind all these other troops, horse archers with this 8th division. Now, the 8th we're going to use also to kill in this battle, but I'll show you how we're going to do it. We're going to do it very strategically. Let's go ahead and start the battle here because they're 800 units away. So it's going to take the enemy a couple minutes to get here. Let's hold fire. We don't need to waste ammo. And let me show you this ridge here first. In fact, we need to move up just a bit so we can take full advantage of it. And for anybody who's like, I can't see what the fuck you're doing, I'm confused, I will zoom out here. We'll use the RTS mod and give you guys a nice perspective of what's going on here. I'm just moving forward here because I want to be right at the edge of this ridge, and I'll show you that in a second. So square, the 1st division's in a square, angry shock troops behind them, crossbow behind them. Now we can set our archers right behind all these guys. And if you look at the archers' line of sight, right, the archers are here. They're shooting right into the enemy ranks. And the reason that's deadly is there's no friendly fire, right? These guys can fire away right into the enemy ranks, and the enemy can't really get to these guys without going through an incredible amount of troops before they get to them. In other words, to get to our archers, they have to get through all of that other meat just to get there, right? Now the 8th and 7th are back here. I'll explain them in a second. I've still got just a second here to show you what the enemy's looking at here. The enemy's going to be approaching us without being able to see us, and that's an essential component of this strategy. They have lots of sergeant crossbow. They have lots of cavalry. Look at what they see, right? This is their approach. They're behind me here now. This is how they're coming towards our troops. You can't see anything except the tops of those flags. That is that ridge I'm talking about. When they do, they're confronted with all kinds of weapons and shock troops. There's a skirmisher line here. We'll put these infantry even closer towards the front. There's sergeant crossbow behind those guys. There's archers back here shooting, and it's going to be a fucking bloodbath. Now, we have to make it a bloodbath, right? Because we're outnumbered worse. Is it worse than 3 to 1, or is it just 3 to 1? What do we have, about 500, right? Against 1,400. I guess it's not quite 4 to 1. It's still bad, though, right? It's really bad. Now, let me show you this overhead, right? Just so I don't lose anybody on the tactics here. The beautiful thing about this formation is that most of this can be done before the battle starts. In other words, there's no stress to this, right? You're doing all this shit as the enemy approaches. In this case, of course, we actually have kind of too much time. I'm getting impatient here. We're holding fire right now. That is because we don't want these guys firing arrows across the whole battlefield. This 8th Division, what I'm going to do is once the enemy gets into the circle, in other words, they start attacking the circle, I'm going to actually drag that 8th Division with our main guy here into the circle. And the reason I'm going to do that is I want the enemy jammed up in the circle. Think of it this way. Enemy cavalry derive their damage from movement, from moving fast, right? A dude on a horse, and they're going 45 miles an hour. They do a lot more damage to somebody hitting them with their spear than we're going like 6 miles an hour or something like that, right? In this case, all we're trying to do is make sure that they can't, as I miss every javelin throw here, is make sure that they can't hit guys at maximum speed. Now, of course, as the commander, this is just kind of an obvious thing. If you can kill a half dozen guys before the enemy approaches, so much the better, right? This guy's got high javelin skills. Might as well just hit a few guys here, dismount a few guys before the real battle starts. Now, I'm going to back the 8th Corps off, right? Here's the 8th Corps. I'm going to actually tell them, go away. I don't actually want them at the beginning of the battle here. We're going to slow this down because at this stage, you open fire. And I want to show you what this looks like from inside the circle. It's a little hard to see with all the little icons, but the enemy's going to get bound up on all our cavalry here. When that happens, you're going to want to start attacking with these divisions. We'll start with the 6th. The next division to attack is the 3rd. And the idea is that the enemy inside the circle here, as they sort of filter in, they now get mauled by all these shock troops, right? These guys start going crazy with their Manablions, and it's just the screen fizzes green as the enemy gets butchered in here. Now, there's another component that I just talked about, that 8th Corps. I'm going to tell them to follow me because I want this to be like the school zone nearby your house. Nobody gets to move. It's a 5-mile-an-hour zone. Everybody gets to stand still. And the reason I'm doing that is I want all of these cavalry moving as slow as possible so that our units can butcher the shit out of them. There's some lord right there, Durand or whatever, right? We're going to just continue to chop these guys down. So there's, 3 different divisions charging. The cavalry's in here, and at this stage, once they're next to you in here, you can tell them to charge. That basically just tells them all to kill a target that's near them. And the death spam is fizzing because we have all this concentrated firepower in here, and the enemy can't move. They're not killing our guys. We're killing them, right? It's bad. Banner Knights are getting blasted. They've got infantry and cavalry kind of stacked up at the front of our formation here. We can fire a few javelins actually into their various divisions that are on the other side there, kill some champions and stuff like that. You can also charge with that 1st Division. They've played defense. Those guys have been good to this stage. We can let them get some licks too. Oops, I knew we were going to kill one eventually. All right, now let's look at our cavalry, our archers and horse archers back here. They're unmolested. These guys are like, this is fucking great, man. We love our commander. Right now, I'm also going to charge with our crossbow division because they may run out of ammo. If they do, we want to make sure that they're laying their licks on the enemy, right? Any of their guys that are in there, we want to make sure that those guys are swinging their glaives at them, right? Now, the last thing you want to do is you want to make sure that their archers either fall back. In this case, they don't look like they're falling back. We're going to kill these folks, right? These crossbow that are just sort of holding the line here, fuck these guys, right? In fact, our infantry line just hit them. You want your guys just blasting these guys. All your cavalry is following me. We're going to kill as many of these guys as possible. That way, they don't make it back to their mates, right? The rest of these sharpshooters and whatnots, their mates are falling back. We're going to make sure that these crossbow don't, right? These sharpshooters, these guys die right here. Now, I'm watching the enemy's reinforcements, right? I'm very aware that they're going to pour up with another reinforcement wave. We're going to make sure that we pull back by the time they do, but right now, it's sharpshooter execution hour. And that's it, right? We're out of here now. Now, what I'm going to do is tell everybody line formation and follow me because that first wave is gone, right? They're all obliterated. Now we're going to very, very subtly change what we're doing in this second wave, right? That's the first wave. In fact, let's look. We've got 170 deaths. We have 300 left, and we killed 638. So far it's close. In other words, close to the right death spam to win this battle. Now, everybody's going to fucking swarm me unless you tell them to stop. The enemy's 337 units away. I'm going to bring our units over that ridge. Again, we're doing that for protection. If our units are on the other side of that ridge, they're going to get killed. Right? They're going to get shot by crossbow. They're going to get stabbed. We want to basically use this ridge as our safety line. In fact, I think there's a horseman here getting cut down. We don't have a lot of time to set up because their horses are already reforming. So I'm going to do this kind of quick. I'll try to show you. In fact, I can just slow it down like this, sort of using this slow-mo. We're going to form a V shape with our two different cav divisions, right? Kind of right at the edge of this ridge. We're going to put that infantry division in a shield wall towards the front. Shock troops behind them, and I'll zoom out here. I don't really want to... Well, we'll do it like this. No one's really concerned that we're like cheating somehow in this battle. Behind them, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our archers and crossbow basically in spread lines with a little distance between where the enemy is going to hit our lines here, right? 2nd Division there, 8th Division over there. And the purpose of all this, here I'll get back down to the ground level, is to create, again, a big line of troops that are going to slow down this incoming cav charge, right? Now we've got our 3rd Division. These guys you want to have like on the gun, your figure on the trigger, like the intruder coming into your house. I don't want to charge till that enemy line hits our line, but as soon as they do, these guys get unleashed, including this guy with the terrible haircut here, this recruit. He's got a beard because he's trying to get laid, but man, does he look stupid. Now that cav line is coming over the ridge, our archers are told to fire, and this 3rd Division is told to charge, right? You can charge at the 6th as well, and our job here is to kill as quickly and as efficiently as we can, because we know more Vlandians are coming, right? We've got this line here. Horse archers are back here, I think. Yeah, horse archers are back here with us. If you can, right, you want to come in here and stop these guys from mowing down your units, right? They're going to be sort of attacking your archers on the margin of the battle here. And this is where you definitely, as a commander, got to get bloody. In fact, I'm going to have to just get in here and kill some of these squires myself because this battle is going to be close, even if we execute tactics correctly. Now, I'll talk about this while I'm killing the Vlandians. I think I can multitask. Or cutting squires' heads off and stuff like that. Here. Our archers, again, are back there protected. In fact, that crossbow division, I'd like you to charge in this instance because any guy that's out of ammo, we want their mace part of this battle as well. The other archers should have ammo. And I'm actually going to reset one more time. This is another good point here for illustration's sake. See our 3rd Division charging forward? We don't want them going over this ridge, right? So we want to pull back the 1st, 3rd, 2nd, and 8th and basically hold this line this whole battle. It's essential to stay on this side of that line. Just like when you were a little kid and your parents are like, you got to make sure you color between the lines, right? We want to keep our troops on this side of that protective ridge. You know what? The enemy, I think they just routed. Let's go ahead and charge here. It's either regrouping or routing. But I think this Vlandian force just said, fuck it. I can't win this battle. We're getting butchered. Now, we'll change directions if they all of a sudden start to charge here. I'm going to take this ridge, and hopefully we can get some archers to the top of this ridge before they turn, in case they turn. But I do think this Vlandian force is running. Let's get horse archers set up here. They got about 400 troops left. Let's charge. Those cav divisions can charge, take advantage of this positioning. This is routing behavior. I've played enough Bannerlord at this stage to know these little pathetic Vlandians, well, now they're changing their mind. The enemy's basically right on the edge of routing. They're not sure what they want to do here. And so you want to encourage it. I talk about this ad nauseum on the channel. When the enemy's thinking about routing, encourage them. How do you encourage them? Dismember their friend. Right? That's right in the handbook. Sun Tzu said, when the enemy's considering routing, F1, F3, and dismember enemy's friends. Right? So go through here and cut down some insolent Vlandians. Look for Derthert. Try to behead Derthert. And this fucking battle is over, friends. Beautiful. Coriel, bud. We've got you covered. And hopefully this episode was highly beneficial for all you players out there facing Derthert, facing large Vlandian forces. Hopefully you can use tactics in your own game to make these bitches run for the hill. Look at these pathetic Vlandians. Run for the hill, you bitches. And we weren't just successful in this battle, we were successful by a considerable margin, right? I would say the enemy has, or our forces have maybe 150 healthy troops left, maybe 200, right? There's a nice line of our troops taunting the enemy, yelling, "You are dead," as they get blown off the battlefield. And again, what a perfect battle here to illustrate the value of tactics. This is 1,400 Vlandians reduced to a whole bunch of prisoners. Derthert is in here somewhere, I think. Maybe we'll have to run them down after this battle. But either way, a crushing victory here for Coriel in this battle. And perfect, right? This is exactly what this series is for. This is exactly what this entire... Oops, we gave up some food there. We're not going to catch Derthert. He's going to be able to get away. You got guys gaining levels here, Mr. Coriel. But hopefully this is a great episode to help you fellas understand, of course, the value of tactics. You're here in the first place in Tactical Enlightenment. You guys understand. But hopefully this is a perfect example of how advanced tactics can turn around a very difficult situation here into victory. And just to make sure, God, that seemed kind of easy. No, we still have the hardest player damage, right? We're not, I swear we're not pulling the wool over your eyes there, fellas. And of course, if you execute these same kind of tactics, you should be able to have this kind of success. All right. God, my character here is barely injured. Amazing. All right, friends, we're going to wrap this episode up. If you want to send in your difficult scenario, right? Whether it's a scenario like this where you're trapped, or a campaign where you're going broke, whatever the case might be, right? Coriel looks like he's got a pretty good grasp on things, right? He's got a bunch of influence. He's got a good-looking army. He's got some nice character traits here. In fact, we're boosting some of his stats for him. Send it on in, right? The email is in the video description if you want to participate in this series. If you want to help, with your campaign or with a particular battle, I'm game to look at it. We can't take on every challenge, but we're going to do as many as we possibly can. With that said, of course, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for your support. For this episode and for other episodes in the future. You want to see more episodes from the channel, please subscribe, hit that like button on the way out, friends. And with all that said, I will see you and Coriel next time.